Welcome, my name is John, and I'm just here to discuss movies on the YT. And if you'd like to join that discussion, go ahead and smash that subscribe button and hit that notification bell as well. And today I am continuing my Zack Snyder review series with Man of Steel. This is a movie I've had a fairly complicated relationship with. The first 2 times I watched it, I loved it to death. The third time I watched it, I ended up not liking it anymore for whatever reason. It's a movie, like I said, I've had complicated relationships with, but I've kind of singled out to the point where I really enjoy the movie, but I don't necessarily think it's the best of the best. And this video is going to kind of elaborate on both reasons as why I really like it, but also why I don't think it's quite up there. So in Man of Steel, you basically follow around this guy named Clark Kent or Kal-El, whatever you want to call him, as he becomes Superman, and Zod tries to invade Earth and turn it into Krypton. And so getting into the action, this is the best part of this movie. It's got some great, phenomenal action sequences, especially mainly in the second half of the movie. I love the Smallville action scene. And then when you get into Metropolis, the action scenes where they're destroying the, big pillar ships, terraforming ships, they're fairly generic. It's still pretty good. But after that, when he's fighting Zod, is really, really good as well. And I think the destructive nature of it, I know that's one criticism this movie gets. That's never been a criticism of mine, because it makes sense. If aliens like this fought, there would be destruction like that. And the way it's filmed, it's in a way that I did a Godzilla 2014 review that also kind of talks about this. It's filmed in a way that kind of helps intensify the action. Now getting into the acting and the characters, you have a great cast that individually give pretty good performances. Although Amy Adams, she's a great, phenomenal actress. She's been nominated for Academy Awards for good reason. She might have won one, I don't know. But I don't think she's the right casting for Lois Lane. She just doesn't feel like Lois Lane to me. And then also, this might be fairly controversial, I think Michael Shannon's performance for the majority of the time is really good. But there's just a couple moments here and there that frustrate me where I feel like he's going over the top. And I don't know if that's him or if it's the direction. And I love Zack Snyder for the most part. He's made a couple movies that I'm not a big fan of, but I love Zack Snyder for the most part. And the main example of the over-the-top parts of Michael Shannon's performance is when, right before he goes up into, the Phantom Zone, and he's saying, I will find him, and he's telling Laura this. He does it in nice, subtle, creepy, evil ways, a couple times, and it's, perfect. And then, right before he sends up, he yells it in this absolutely cheesy, hammy way, excruciatingly over-the-top way. It almost honestly sounds like he almost cracks his voice or something. And that's the biggest example. There's a couple other moments as well. But overall, I still think the performance is really good. And then Henry Cavill is my favorite Superman. He's not my favorite Clark Kent, but he's my favorite Superman. And now getting into the visuals, I think the visual style this movie works really well in the second half of the movie when you have the action, because it helps intensify action sequences. But there's moments where it's almost supposed to have great angles, but it feels like the cameraman or camera operator, whatever, is shaking or something a little too much. And that can somewhat help when you get into action sequences, because it can feel more intensified. But when it's people talking and stuff, it can somewhat feel uncomfortable. That being said, the angles that they're pointing at are great. Then the visual effects are pretty good. I think nowadays they sometimes feel slightly dated, but barely at all. And now getting into the story and the writing, this is where most of my issues lie, and it does not have to do with the tone. I love the tonal shift that Snyder gives Superman in this, and it's not the story either. I think the story's really good. It's more the structure of it I don't entirely enjoy. Mainly because the first half, and this is an issue I have with not all, but a decent amount of origin movies. The first half always feels too long, and it feels like they're just lingering around until the villain finally shows up. And this movie is one of the biggest examples of that, in my opinion. You have like 5 flashback sequences, or 4 or 5 flashback sequences, and only like 2 of them are necessary. It just feels too dragged out a little to me, and it just feels like they're lingering around sometimes. But once Zod appears on the televisions and everything, it's awesome. It's phenomenal. And it's kind of like the opposite of all of the other Zack Snyder DC movies, in the sense that the theatrical cut of Watchmen was a little too short, and the director's cut became one of the greatest comic book movies of all time. BVS, as we'll get into, both cuts, in my opinion, are too short for the amount of stuff that's in it. This is almost the exact opposite. I think it's a little too long. And then getting into the sound, I think the sound design is really, really good in this movie. And then the score, most people I know praise this score as one of their favorites. And I love Hans Zimmer. He's made some of my favorite scores. But this particular score, I think it's really good. It does its job. But it's not one of my favorites in the way that other people describe this score. Like, even among Snyder movies, I actually think Tyler Bates' scores are better. I think Hans Zimmer's a more talented composer overall. But in terms of Zack Snyder movies, I prefer the Tyler Bates scores of like 300 and Watchmen. And so overall, Man of Steel is a really good movie. It's a really good comic book movie. I don't think it's quite the best Superman movie though. And it's pretty middle, for me personally, it's kind of middle of the road DC. You know, it's not good. It's not like the best of the best. It's not the Dark Knight, but it's also not Catwoman. It's above average. I will say it's above average, but it's still kind of the middle of the pack. And therefore, I think Man of Steel deserves a 3.75. Thanks for watching this video. Go ahead and share your thoughts on Man of Steel in the comments section down below. This is one of the more divisive movies out there, especially within the comic book world. And so go ahead and share your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed this review, go ahead and smash that thumbs up icon. Smash this thumbs down if you disagree with me. I don't care. And smash that subscribe button and hit that notification bell as well to stay up to date on this Zack Snyder review series. We have an even more divisive DC movie up next. So I will return next time when I see you again.